It's about time I make a video where we trash talk all of the silly fad diets, because at the end of the day, save a few rare exceptions, that's exactly what they are, trash. Hey everybody, this is Dylan. It's become pretty commonplace that we think of a diet as this temporary event, a short-term modification to our current everyday way of eating that got us into this mess to begin with. If everything was going well in our lives, then there'd be no reason to go to any of this trouble. We'd just keep eating whatever the body craves and on we go. Usually the way it goes is that after decades of eating a standard American diet, a person gradually develops enough motivation to make a change to their eating habits. It's usually because they either don't like the way that their body looks or they actually feel physically unwell. We then start searching for these hacks, these workarounds, the easier the better, the ones that require the least amount of change possible so that we can keep getting good news about our bad habits. We want to believe in our hearts that we can just continue eating the same delicious steaming pile of shit while all of our physical issues are magically alleviated. And to our great surprise, all of the hot popular people on the internet are doing it too. They've got all their great products and their cookbooks and their sexy pictures. All I've got to do is change a couple of these little tweaks and I'll look just like them in no time. Unfortunately, great health does take quite a lot of hard work, especially at the beginning when you're just getting started. In fact, it's so hard to get healthy that most people you know will never succeed at it, and that's just the way it goes. But this video was made for you, not for them. There are a few main objectives that I would look for as you decide on your new diet. First of all, the goal of the diet should be health, not weight loss. There are a lot of insane ways to lose weight that are all very unhealthy, and they almost always lead to yo-yoing. You have to think of weight loss as a side effect of health. Get into this for overall lifelong health, and all of your other side effects will begin to disappear, including the unwanted pounds. Along those same lines, whatever your diet is, it should not require a body hack to make it work. If you're trying to trick the body to do something, then it's not natural, and it's not healthy, and it's probably not going to last. Number two, choose a diet that you plan to maintain for the rest of your life. I always refer to this as sustainability. Can you theoretically sustain this way of life forever? An example would be convenience. The diet needs to be super simple and can't take a crazy amount of time to adhere to. Also, there's financial sustainability, the actual cost of the diet. Try to pick something that most normal people can actually afford. It's okay to buy helpful things like kitchen tools or pre-made food products like the ones that I make if you can afford to do so, but it shouldn't be required in order to be successful. The best diet in the world is the cheapest one to adhere to forever. The other sustainability thing I like to consider is this: could every person on earth theoretically maintain my diet? For example, if your diet relies on grass-fed beef, then it automatically fails because there is not enough space on planet Earth to grow that much grass to feed that much cattle. If today's world were in perfect condition and it was just populated by 7 billion clones of yourself, could all of your clones also maintain this diet? And if the answer is no, then it's just a fairy tale diet, it is not real life. Okay, let's jump into all these fad diets. The first one is the Paleo Diet. This diet was designed to mimic the way humans ate before the dawn of agriculture some 12,000 years ago, except they got it all completely wrong. The gurus of this diet would like you to believe that our ancestral hunter-gatherers relied heavily on meat. While meat was absolutely eaten during this time, it was in pretty small amounts, certainly not an amount that could have ever sustained an entire population of people. Besides, excessive meat intake leads to elevated cholesterol and chronic illness such as heart disease, so this diet automatically fails on the health objective. Also, the type of meat eaten most commonly in the developed world is nothing like the pre-industrialized wild animals that were eaten by our ancestors. If you want to eat close to the meat that they ate, then you would have to at the very least do the cage-free chicken or the grass-fed beef, which again, there's not enough space on the planet, plus it's super expensive, which makes it totally unsustainable. One good thing about the fad paleo diet is that they eliminate all the processed sugar and a lot of the processed junk food because those things just wouldn't have existed back in the Paleolithic period. Cool. But they also eliminate all of the healthy whole grains, which is really dumb because those are health-promoting foods. They include fresh fruits and veggies, which is great, but just so we're clear, the fresh fruits and veggies of the modern era are nothing like the ones that existed 12,000 years ago, but all of that gets a pass. And on top of that, they include oil in the diet, such as avocado oil or coconut oil or olive oil, but humans didn't even start processing plants into oil until 5,000 years ago, and even if that wasn't an issue, it's not like coconuts and avocados grow in every backyard. This was not the diet eaten in the Paleolithic period. Paleo eaters fortunately don't consume dairy, which could have just been sucked out of the boobs of all the mammals they were hunting back then, but the oil extraction, which had never been seen before during this time, is okay? Come on. You try to wow people with this blatant misinformation. Oh, the early humans ate just like us, it's so romantic. But come on, this is all provably false in 30 seconds on Google. Give me a break. Oh great, next up on my list is the keto diet. Perfect. I'm gonna lump this together with the low carb and the Atkins diet and the South Beach diet. That's all the same garbage. Anyway, in the 1900s, it was discovered that fasting, which puts a person into ketosis, was helpful for people with seizure disorders such such as epilepsy. But since you can't go your whole life without eating unless you want to die early, they had to find a way to keep these patients in ketosis while still feeding them. Let me explain, I'll make this quick. The body's main fuel source is glucose, and only glucose. That's the only thing that the body burns. Healthy, normal people consume glucose in their food, such as fruits or tubers or whole grains or legumes, and then the body burns that fuel directly. If you're not getting enough of those foods in your diet, then fortunately your body has a backup process that it's evolved where you can turn fat into glucose so that you don't starve to death. This is the whole purpose of actually storing fat on the body so that we have it for backup, and this is ketosis. This is the reason humans were able to travel so far away from the equator, whereas other apes simply couldn't do it. They would just die without food. So let's go back to the 1900s, and it turns out you can feed seizure patients a high-fat diet without any of the glucose-rich foods, and you'll keep them in this fasting mimicking state of ketosis, and they won't have any seizures, which is great. That's like if you can choose between having seizures and heart disease from all of the high-fat food, obviously you'll take the heart disease because you can deal with that decades later. I'll just want to get rid of my seizures and be good to go. And that's what you would obviously do. But the fad diet freaks got hold of this information, and they realized you could put any old person on a high-fat diet, keep them in ketosis, and avoid all of the excess weight gain. So it's just a vanity diet using a body hack in order to be successful, but the problem is it leads to heart disease, type 2 diabetes, all kinds of other chronic illnesses because this is not health food. You may look okay on the outside, but on the inside, you're doing very poorly, I assure you. Go get your cholesterol tested. If you can maintain this diet without the need for cholesterol and blood pressure drugs, then okay, but I highly doubt that's the case. You should really get yourself checked out if you're on a keto diet for an extended period of time. And I'm sorry to be dogging on you so hard, but if you have to pee on test strips or draw blood or breathe into some fancy machine to tell you if you're doing it right, then this is not a sustainable diet. This is just silliness. You're just playing games. And to be clear, there is a healthier version of a keto diet, like a whole food vegan keto diet that uses whole plant fats like nuts and seeds and avocados to stay in ketosis rather than junk food and animal products to stay in ketosis. But again, this should be reserved for like seizure patients, the people that actually need a keto diet in order to do well. Pee strips, I mean, seriously? You pee on a strip every day. It's terrible. How about calorie counting or Weight Watchers or any portion control diet? They've all been shown to be complete failures. You have to live in a state of ongoing deprivation, and you're eventually going to break, and all the weight is going to come back on. They don't work. Plus, the actual process of counting the calories or the points is way too inconvenient and unnatural. You can't ask your brain to sit here and count points every time we eat. We eat way too often. Plus, the diet allows you to eat junk food. Oh, but only in just a nibble or two. Just stop right when you've gotten your half a point. I mean, give me a break. Nobody has the willpower to like have a couple chips and then put it away for tomorrow's point counting rally. If you want to learn how to eat regular, healthy human food without having to pay any attention to how much of it you're eating, then click right here and check out my video. Let's move on. Next up, I guess we could talk about a traditional version of a low-fat diet, which is usually like 35% of calories in the diet from fat, which is not low-fat at all. So that's really just not a real thing. It's like it makes you just think you're on a diet, but you're not, so that you feel better about yourself, so that you feel like you're doing something, but you're on a completely misguided diet that doesn't work. Turkey is not a health food. You can't just remove the skin off your chicken and now it's low fat. You can't skim all the fat off your milk and then just still eat dairy. It's still dairy. Dairy is like one of the most unhealthy things that you could ever put in your body in the history of the whole planet. Don't eat it. Plus, you're probably allergic to it and you don't even know. Anyway, let's keep going. What else is on my list? Oh yes, the Mediterranean diet. The Mediterranean diet is probably the least poisonous of all the diets that I've mentioned so far, but it still doesn't go far enough. The diet is based more on plants than animals, which is good. The lean is meat and eaten in much smaller portions and way less frequently, which is less bad than the other diets, but it still doesn't eliminate the animal products, which it really should. And the diet is full of oil, which will still lead to chronic illness, albeit less rapidly than a standard American diet, but it will still happen. So you can see there are clear improvements with the Mediterranean diet, but it doesn't make it a health-promoting diet. A lot of advocates of this diet will cite all these studies that show dramatic health improvement on a Mediterranean diet rich with olive oil, but you're just comparing it to a standard American diet. Almost any diet is better than a standard American diet, so you do put the two together in a study and it's gonna look better. But that doesn't mean that it's healthy. Most people on this diet are eventually going to need drugs to control their blood pressure and their cholesterol. It may happen a little bit later than on other diets, but it's still going to happen. Plus, eating fancy meat and seafood is very expensive and it's unsustainable for a planet as small as ours. Wine is not a health food. Do we really have to? It's alcohol. Do we have to cover this? If you want the health promoting effects of grapes, then just eat grapes. Eggs are not healthy. They're full of cholesterol. Look, if you don't have it in you to maintain an actual healthy diet, then I would agree the Mediterranean diet is the least bad of the animal food diets, but still, it just doesn't get the job done. It's not healthy, it's too expensive, it's bad for the planet. Let's move on. What else is there? The carnivore diet, I'm not even gonna talk about. It's dumber than the paleo diet, okay? What else do I need to say? Then there's like the blood type diet. All humans are different based on their blood. Are you serious? We're the only animal who has this wildly, dramatically different diet based on what our blood says? Give me a break. This is nonsense. How about a vegan diet? I'm vegan, but by definition, a vegan diet has nothing to do with health. It only has to do with removing animal products from the diet. You haven't addressed the oil, the processed junk food, all the other garbage. So a vegan diet on its own does not go far enough if health is your objective. If all you want to do is protect the planet and the animals, then by all means, I highly support a vegan diet with all of the fake vegan meats and cheeses. But if health is your concern, it is absolutely not going to do the job. You have to go farther. The good news is there is a vegan diet that is also the healthiest diet on the planet, and that is what I make YouTube videos about. So do subscribe to the channel and check out my recipe videos and my other plant rants like this one. My lifelong diet includes a healthy balanced mix of fruits and veggies, whole starches like potatoes and whole grains and legumes, and healthy whole fats like nuts and seeds and avocados and lots more other stuff. I get all the calories I need without going over. I get all the complete protein that I need, all of the healthy whole fats, all of the healthy whole unprocessed carbohydrates. Everything just remains in balance. And best of all, I don't have to take any drugs to control my blood pressure or my cholesterol, and I can reverse chronic illness, and I certainly can prevent it. So it's just a no-brainer diet. It tastes good. It takes a little time to adjust. You got to learn some cooking techniques and whatnot. It can be hard at first, like I said, but it all just levels out, and I never have to think about food. It's very cheap. It's the cheapest diet in the history of the world. It's what you should be doing too if you're not already. Anyway, let's move on to a couple other diets. The raw food diet. A raw vegan diet can be relatively healthy to maintain, but it's harder to get the calories because you can't rely on the healthy whole cooked starches like our species has eaten for the last couple 100,000 years. Instead, you've got to rely on a lot of fruit intake to get your calories up, which can be problematic for some people. And then if you're not getting enough calories from the fruit, then you've got to rely on a lot of whole plant fats like nuts and seeds and avocado. You're going to have too much fat in the diet, so you've got to really be careful with how you're getting the calories on a raw diet. Also, it can be pretty expensive to maintain a raw food diet because fruit is more expensive and all of the whole fats like nuts and seeds are quite expensive too. The cheapest diet in the world is all these cooked foods, the potatoes and the whole grains and the legumes. So I'm not trying to dog on the raw food diet, but you get what I'm saying here. Intermittent fasting is another one. This is not actually a diet, it's a way of doing your diet. So you can eat a terrible diet and do intermittent fasting where you shorten the feeding window to say 6 or 8 hours during the day rather than 10 or 12 hours during the day. But it's really gets in the weeds. And like I said, you can do it on a healthy diet or an unhealthy diet. And a lot of people do it on an unhealthy diet and they think they're doing some miraculous thing, but it's all BS. And then there's OMAD, which is 1 meal a day that some people do, which is just a version of intermittent fasting where you narrow the feeding window to 2 hours or 1 hour or something crazy like that. This is much too restrictive. It's going to reduce the intake of calories and can be very problematic for most people. Aside from that, there are people that do perfectly healthy eating, but they're doing it on like 1,200 calories a day. This is not sustainable. Most people are going to feel very hungry on 1,200 calories and you're going to fail. And unfortunately, when you fail, it's often on unhealthy food binging and stuff like that. There's the SOS-free diet, which removes salt, oil, and sugar. These are 3 processed foods that didn't exist in our natural history, so they can cause people to overeat and become overweight. So for some people that are very sensitive, it makes a lot of sense to remove salt, oil, and sugar. Food products that I sell on the Well Your World store are all totally SOS-free because I want to adhere to the least common denominator diet, the healthiest version that you could possibly eat. Anyway, leave a comment down below if I missed any diets that you wanted me to talk about, and check out this playlist right here for more videos like this one. Thank you so much for watching. I'll see you on the next video. Bye.